there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and yeah, I don't know about this week. And it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. But truth be told, I'm still struggling to make heads or tails of this entire Billboard year. You'd think that at least part of it would be demarcated by all the recurrency changes Billboard themselves brought in, but what I've seen instead is Billboard then inventing every justification to ignore or bypass them, and it's worth getting into a bunch of that this week. In the meantime, I would call this week more consistently normal as Taylor Swift's album bomb finally starts to gently fade, but how it's all going to spiral out longer term, especially if we could get album impact from Wicked for Good or Summer Walker in the wake of the holidays to come, yeah, kinda tough to tell. But until we get all there, our top 10, where we're looking at a margins game here, people, for our number 1 with The Fate of Ophelia by Taylor Swift. She's got the sale, she's got the streaming position, for now, but she lags ever so slightly on radio gains, specifically right behind Golden from K-Pop Demon Hunters at number 2, which is holding a slight radio edge, albeit inconsistently. Projections are showing that as Taylor fades on streaming, Golden just might retake the number 1, even if the radio starts slipping. It's going to be on the margins, but I do think it's a fair prediction either way. Now, this is where rock solid consistency from Ordinary by Alex Warren might be its greatest asset, currently at number 3. Losing a bit of sales, it's probably peaked on the radio, but holding steady on streaming will be what keeps this higher longer term, at least for now, above Opalite by Taylor Swift at number 4, which has real sales and better streams, but really is not getting the radio push it'll need in order to compete. What is getting it is Man I Need by Olivia Dean up to number 5. The sales are good, but she's only getting more streams and radio. I see a lot of uptick there that I find very promising. Hell, it leapfrogged over Daisies by Justin Bieber at number 6. Although, given how the radio spent wavering and streaming really isn't there, I bet this falls off pretty fast. Which brings us to a new and legit surprising top 10 entry, Folded by Kehlani at number 7. Now, there's a larger piece to be written about how consistently strong of a year R&B has had in 2025, one of the few bright spots on the Hot 100 to keep it real, and this being one of Kehlani's best singles getting pushed across radio and streaming, it's long overdue. Thrilled to see it finally happen to them after last year when their name was being used as a punchline from an already forgotten rapper in order to get a hit. It was also handily enough to get over Elizabeth Taylor by Taylor Swift at number 8. The streaming has slipped a little bit, and that's basically all it's got, and that takes us to 2 tracks that appear to be largely stable, at least for now. I Got Better by Morgan Wallen at number 9, as the radio losses were actually propped up by streaming, and Mutt by Leon Thomas at number 10, which pretty much just has the radio, but enough inertia there in order to stymie some losses. Well, at least for now. Speaking of which are losers and dropouts, and we do have a few relatively modest ones in the latter group. Eternity by Alex Warren, Shake It to the Max by Molly, Silent Addy, Shensia, and Skillabang, and Gnarly by Cat's Eye, alongside a couple debuts from last week that just could not get going, but what else is new? But what I am going to highlight are songs that are avoiding going recurrent based on Billboard's own goddamn rules, because they just so happen to get a smidge of adult alternative radio or in another format, and we can't really devalue any potential growth there now, can we? It's maddening because unless you get deep into the weeds of radio call-out scores, you see songs that are actively losing position on the Hot 100 and sometimes even on the radio charts themselves, but Billboard just won't take them off. If I were to guess, I think it comes with that slight rebalance of radio spins early during the tracking week. They gave a bunch of songs an added boost that does not seem to be remotely sustainable, and Billboard should know that, but if they're counting it as momentum, we might have our flimsy justification here. So, Mystical Magical by Benson Moon, and Happen to Me by Russell Dickerson cling on despite being below the top 25 past 26 weeks, and the rest are below the top 50 past 20 weeks. The old recurrency rule standard. Wildflower by Billie Eilish, House Again by Hudson Westbrook, Nice to Meet You by Miles Smith, Amen by Shabuzi and Jelly Roll, incredible. Again, what Billboard is doing here is a choice on their part, and the lack of transparency when they break their own rules only serves to devalue the chart's not good reputation. And I bring all this up because we actually do have a swath of actual losers this week. So let's start with the residual from the album bombs. Wood and Actually Romantic from Taylor Swift falling to 24 and 25 respectively. When Did You Get Hot by Sabrina Carpenter at 62, and Outside by Cardi B at 99. Then we got some gains that are falling back sharply. Pixelated Kisses by Joji slid hard to 85, sadly alongside The Subway by Chaperone at 95, and the rest, well, 12 to 12 by Somber's just not getting a radio push, so it's down to 59, Bar None by Jordan Davis at 82, and Maui Wowie by Kid Cudi at 91. So let's shift over to our returns and gains and finish up a quick bit of old business with the bad recurrency rules. Well, not bad, it's more bad that Billboard's not following them. I seriously question bringing back either Morgan Wallen's 20 Cigarettes to 77 or I Ain't Coming Back with Post Malone at 98, but if there is some residual traction on aggregate as late album singles, as there appears to be, I might be a bit more forgiving here. And hell, we had some Halloween returns with This Is Halloween at 47 and Thriller by Michael Jackson at 32. I'm actually a little bit interested how Billboard will handle seasonal holidays outside of Christmas, because seasonal hits and fluctuations go beyond the obvious. Look at how often September by Earth, Wind & Fire comes back on the global charts, with Taylor Swift's August starting to have a similar perennial effect. I bring all this up because we really only have one gain this week. Back in the Saddle by Luke Combs at 22. Chalk this up to a lot of Nashville radio, the very obvious reason. But anyway, we do have a reasonable, if somewhat mixed list of new arrivals here, so unfortunately we have to start with number 100, Favorite Country Song by Hardy.
In the creek bank choir, gotta get back 'cause it's been too long. That's my favorite country song.
You'd think we'd be done with this guy by now. I knew we weren't going to fully get rid of Hardy because he'd just go back behind the scenes with a lot of his famous friends as a songwriter, and Nashville radio gave him enough traction and hits to keep his career on life support. But The Mockingbird and The Crow was embarrassingly bad in 2023 on a scale you rarely see. The WWF apologized for him performing live from it a couple of years ago. You gotta remember that? But apparently he put out an album at the end of September that precisely nobody asked me to cover. Sometimes y'all do get something right. And this is the first charting single from it. And, you know, by now, y'all know I am a sucker for meta commentary in songs. Music about music. Something that a Music Row songwriter like Hardy would know. It's kind of been a trend in the early 2020s. Now, this seems precisely built to piss me off in that vein, because he opens up the track listing a bunch of country songs and then outright says they don't measure up compared to the real country experience, against the same leaden riff repeated over and over as what sounds like a marching band snare gradually saturates the mix. Credit to Joey Moy trying to give this some organic swell as Hardy starts hollering unconvincingly, but the song never really gets out of first gear and the whole premise is infuriating. Dude, you're a Nashville songwriter who makes country music. Part of your job description is reinforcing the machine, showing reverence to the artifice that gave you and your Hicks tapes a career. Not saying, yeah, you know what, none of this is like the real experience. Not like this twerp would know fully better to grasp that. And by the time the touches of gospel sink in on the bridge, and you notice that there's no real consistent through line to any of the country songs he listed, and from listing a bunch of country songs, he then listed a bunch of generic country things he likes more, just feels so goddamn phony to me. It doesn't earn any of its pomp or bombast. So yeah, you can shout country all you want, Hardy, but this is committee-designed dreck. Let's go back to Hardy not mattering. Number 96, Amor by Emmanuel Cortes. So I I guess we're not quite done with the regional Mexican crossovers. Truthfully, there have been a few lurking midway down the charts in the entire year, mostly from Fuerza Regida and generally ignorable. Although, this time you're dealing with a kid out of Arkansas making it with a song that he first cut back in 2023 that got a remix earlier this year, and well, I used to highlight just how badly a lot of the scene was produced and face some pushback on how it was largely built for that live setting. But that also largely improved with more commercial crossover and budgets that production, something that this song absolutely does not have. There's a decent enough accordion and horn line driving that strident melody, and I guess the more developed bass line and percussion that feels kind of reggaeton adjacent. It's a cool crossover, but the drums themselves sound tinny and kind of awful, and the vocal mix, even with all the generous reverb, is clipping frequently. This is not built for the live show. It sounds amateurish in a way that makes me, well, honestly distinctly uncomfortable, which if you look into any album art or promo material, that kind of lines up. This doesn't feel like it was supposed to chart on the Hot 100. It's not helped by Cortes not having the most personality in his voice or his writing. It's most notable for feeling really quite chaste for this brand of cumbia norteña, which only seems to highlight that feeling of broad inexperience across the board. And look, I'll freely admit none of this has ever really been that much for me, and I don't want to be that harsh on something that appears to have snagged some fluke global virality, but man, I don't think this is that good. All I'm saying. Next. Number 87, A Couple Minutes by Olivia Dean.
I'll always be there. Only have a couple minutes, then we're going back to real life.
Honestly, not at all what I had picked for the next Olivia Dean song to chart, but I'm kind of thrilled that it's one of my late album favorites. The penultimate song with gorgeous strings against the husky, soulful guitars and gentle percussion, with just enough warm, masculine backing vocals to amplify that slow burn scene on display. And what a scene it is. Post-breakup, Olivia Dean meets up with that ex, and there's that flicker of an old spark coincidentally that brings back all those old cozy memories. But that's all they are, memories. And there's this sad wistfulness in realizing she hasn't exactly been better in the meantime while he has been, but she's also mature enough to just keep moving on, savor a couple of minutes of nostalgia. It's got the feel of an older, mature soul song, something I could have seen Adele cutting for an album track, and I do hear some obvious shadows of that influence, but Olivia Dean makes it her own, and it's pretty great for it, outside of maybe a couple mixing moments that it could have afforded softer edges, and yes, I know I'm nitpicking. Still a great song, absolutely worth hearing. Number 66, I'm Not There For You by Jessie Murph.
I ain't there for you, I don't feel a thing. Nothing left for you, yeah, I mean it, you're fucked up. I ain't there for you, no. Nothing left for you, no. I'm not there for you.
And speaking of people I thought we were long done with, after Jessie Murph's sex hysteria saw a commercial flame out, although I do think there's more discourse around this that I think went underexplored, I really wish I had had the time this summer to do a proper long-form piece on it. There was a part of me that knew that Columbia would not give up on her that quickly, just sunk cost fallacy. So this might be coming from that next album or a detached single, tough to tell, and I hate to say it, but despite the wealth of problems this has, I can hear it being a hit. The hook is enough of an earworm on that vocal line and the guitar melody. And believe me, it's got problems. Barely over the 2-minute mark, the reverb swallow guitar set up a more intimate backdrop, but then Jessie Murph's nasal auto-tuned keening that's clipping the mix can't match any of that atmosphere before we get some shabby drum machines for a trap country tone that should have been left in the dust years ago. And then there are the lyrics, where, of course, Jessie Murph is ripping into some dude who broke her heart, where she's no longer there for him in the bluntest possible language. And by blunt, I'm referring to a lot of the lyrical cadence, which is so painfully choppy, especially on the second verse, that it once again kind of feels amateurish in the worst way possible. She's got a budget. And this is the sort of breakup song where there's enough tender, not over it moments to kind of undercut every clumsy stab, and not the self-awareness to play it for more moral complexity. So yeah, just another bad pop song from Jessie Murph. If radio gets behind it, I hate to say it's got enough of a hook for a real run. Y'all have been warned. Number 64, Beautiful Things by Megan Moroney.
And I can crush your dreams, but honey, just take it from me. The world is hard on beautiful things.
Okay, full disclosure, it's not a Benson Boone cover. My God, what would that even sound like coming from Megan Moroney? And you know what, thank God for that, because it's also demonstrably better. The gentle, wheedling electric guitar around that warmer acoustic and spare percussion, with some softer timbres that are a much better fit for Moroney's lingering vocal fry, even as the bass gradually picks up more presence and swell around some very nice distant guitar phrases on the bridge, as she sings to some heartbroken young girl about how the world can be very hard on beautiful things. Now, I got mixed feelings about the whole sentiment there. It relies on a core of, they're just envious of your shine, which can be a, well, questionable road to walk down if you consider all the implications. But that might also be overthinking it when I can tell Megan Moroney is looking to play the old lane Taylor Swift had back in the late 2000s, trying to be the tender-hearted older sister giving advice and support to younger girls. And it's honestly way too sincere to really get beyond that case, especially as the world weariness in Moroney's voice is actually really effective in selling that whole atmosphere. So yeah, I can admit, not really for me here either, but I can also recognize when it's well done. Good little song, worth hearing. Number 50, Spaghetti by Sserafim and J-Hope.
Eat it up, eat it up. Money soaking Sserafim. Bad bitch in between your teeth. 그냥 포개 어차피. Eat it up, eat it up.
Look, I've talked about Sserafim a couple times now on Billboard Breakdown. Their brand of K-pop keeps trying to find new ways to annoy me, but when you have that song title paired with a BTS collaborator, I honestly had no clue how this title track from a project this year would turn out. And hey, did y'all want an idol group comparing themselves to serving looks like spaghetti amidst a bunch of food references and them telling you to eat it up, where J-Hope tries to then double down with more nasal swagger and food references that jump from kimchi to Hershey's chocolate? Because what would Sserafim be without a line or five that are outright batshit? Yeah, this is it. When you entangle all of it, it's basically just more flexing, describing themselves as food that you can't help but ignore all their serves, including if you cheat on your diet, and a bad bitch between your teeth. Again, batshit lines where my immediate thoughts went to Timbaland's Carry Out with Justin Timberlake or Katy Perry's Bon Appetit. But this might actually have the slight edge courtesy of a really meaty bass line, no pun intended, and some intriguingly textured percussion and a few revving guitar phrases that gives this frankly way more swagger than it deserves. So yeah, it's a deeply silly song that I can't remotely take seriously, especially as the whole food sex connection is something I've never liked, but it kind of owns going as over the top as it does. I would struggle to defend it, but I get why someone might. All I'm saying. And finally, number 38, Lover Girl by Megan Thee Stallion.
Come on, my man, my baby. Digging me down, spoiling me, driving me crazy. My man, my baby. Digging me down, spoiling me, driving me crazy.
So there was a lot of fuss made last week that it was the first week in decades that didn't have a rap song in the top 40, which prompted the usual extremely tired discourse about hip-hop's decline that ignores how the mainstream should not be the barometer of artistic success or validation, and that rap has had a ridiculously strong year if you actually know where to look for it. I would also add to the discourse that this is a statistical problem that Billboard brought on themselves by changing their own recurrency formula and then not even consistently adhering to it. It's writing bad clickbait on your own website on the problem you yourselves created and could have mitigated, but it was also not one that was built to last. Because Megan Thee Stallion has a new song that broke into the top 40s. You want to analyze the trend in a broader context? I'm happy to do so, but this ain't it. Anyway, after the deluxe release of Megan in 2024, I was curious if/when she would be back, so now we got a song all about her relationship with NBA star Klay Thompson. Maybe it's just me, but I actually think they're a decently cute celebrity couple. I'm happy that she's finally happy. And with the song relying on a liberal sample of Kissin' You by 90s R&B group Total, it's all about professing that affection, and it's pretty decent for it. I love the thick bass line around the gentle guitars and the snaps for that Texas hip-hop swagger, though the bed squeaking is really testing my patience. And while Meg provides plenty of twerk breakdowns, the celebration of sexually charged monogamy with someone who's actually on her level of fame, it's a decent change from her just constantly flexing on the haters. But it also might be the quiet limitation of this song. Meg has struggled for a while now to show a broader range, especially when she is more contented in herself. I think that's somewhat true here. Softening some of that brash energy or even just turning up the joy just doesn't feel as natural for her. That's been a problem before. So, I don't know, maybe not her best, but not exactly bad either. We'll see if it grows on me. And that's our week where, wow, the best and the worst, they fall out real fast. In the latter group, it would have gone to Jessie Murph if Favorite Country Song by Hardy didn't royally piss me off. But for the best, yeah, Olivia Dean just runs away with it in a couple minutes. She is making every smart choice when it comes to pushing new singles as a rising star. I'm thrilled she's seeing tangible success. But next week might have some Halloween breakthroughs, but it also might be quiet otherwise. We will have to see. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.